You look all bundled up today, Kimothy.
Oh, look, I'm going to show you.
Hi, Budry.
Yeah, we had a bit of an emergency yesterday, so we went to a clinic and they wouldn't take us in Thunder Bay. They only take
Rude.
clients, even though it said on the internet emergency clinic. So then I got this amazing telehealth for dogs, and a vet got on the phone and said, "Show me his ear infection," and I was basically doing this. So yeah, so we're taking a day off. We're 2 hours from Kenora, Ontario. I'm now in a different time zone from you from the first time in a while. But
Yeah.
before we get started, I have to tell you what happened to me because like I'm such a dork. So
Well, I knew that already, but give me the proof.
so you're not gonna believe what happened to me. So we're pulling in off the Trans-Canada Highway and it says Erin Provincial Park, where I am now. And as you know, I never reveal where I am until I've left, but we're not going to show this until after I'm long gone. So I follow the signs and I pull into the little road and I think, well, this is cute. This is a like little log cabin. And I saw barns, which is not unusual for a provincial park because they have equipment that they use. So I walk in to the log building, prepared to register. It's someone's living room.
Why, hello there.
It's not even the provincial park. I walked into someone's house. So I see this really nice leather furniture and the view of the lake, and I'm thinking, this is the provincial park. So as I turn around, trying to
Like
like
back out.
back out, I hear an ATV and I turn around and there's the owner of the house. I'm like,
Awkward.
and I'm thinking, thank God we don't live in a gun culture because, oh my God. So I'm apologizing profusely. He says it's not the first time it's happened because Google Maps has some weird link. And I said, maybe you should lock your effing door. So he says, no, he said, you just missed the turn. You just have to turn there. And I said, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I don't, Buddy is barking his face off. I'm like trying to like recoil from the fact I walked into this man's house.
I love that. My question was, is this the first time? And he said no. So I was like,
No,
maybe you should send the thing into Google that we have to do with businesses. Be like, this is my location.
no. I even thought, like I said to him, maybe you should put up like a private property sign at the end of the driveway.
Or
And
this is not the provincial park sign.
it's a bird. And he says, I don't mind. I'm like, well, clearly, because you left your door unlocked. I said, and that's beautiful leather furniture, by the way. And my first clue was that it was white leather furniture and no provincial park would ever. And that's when I stopped and I'm like looking around. And there's Buddy. I'm like, I'm so embarrassed. And he's like, no problem. Just turn here. I'm like, okay. Oh, I
Oh
wanted to
my
sweat.
God.
I wanted to sweat. So I looked up this morning. We have 170 videos and 35,000 views since we started this beautiful little channel.
Amazing.
Yeah. 35,000. What's the one? I know you want to talk about some serious stuff. But what is the one that stands one or two, three that stands out for you as because we learn as we go, right? Like this is what I
Yeah.
love about it is I learn something every single time. But what are the ones that stand out for you?
I would say when Margaret visits us for about grief, that's been hugely helpful in my life, but also like really makes me realize that our culture does not talk about grief. In fact, I had an opportunity to share something with a couple of people recently. I was having a pretty rough week, and I shared very, very minimal. Like you know me, I don't share at all, so very minimal. And the response, which made me very punchy, was, "Well, you have a beautiful house and a beautiful family, and you're a successful business owner." And I was like, just because I'm grieving doesn't mean I'm not grateful. Like there's not space. People can't like compartmentalize it. So speaking
Yeah.
to her has been really helpful because then I've learned that like it's not me, it's them. Like it's
Well,
just
I'm just shocked that you didn't say Sue McGarvey when she told us that there was a bordello in Ottawa, and we both went,
really,
me? What?
that was
Where?
fun. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Dina was great on grief too. And I really appreciated talking to our guest a couple weeks ago about what it's like to just be released from a psychiatric hold
Hmm.
and being lonely. And I mean, our original, and now we're talking about menopause, still stays with me because as somebody that is definitely done with menopause, it scared me in a way because there were a lot of preventative things that had I been properly diagnosed as perimenopause, if I had received appropriate medical care when I was perimenopausal, I now know, now that it's become more of an issue, that there are some preventative things that could have been done to lengthen my life, improve my quality of life, help me avoid certain things. And um, that show that we did really made me realize that when I was told, you're just going to suck it up, it was very unfair, very unfair.
Yeah. I think that like what we're learning a lot in doing this podcast is women's health is really undervalued. Is what I'm learning, really. I mean, I've been advocating for myself for years. I'm advocating for my daughter. I advocate for my client, all the stuff, right? Um, but it's very apparent, like women's physical health, mental health, just in general health. It's just we have not gotten the resources in women's mental health and physical health to like even handle this stuff. And it's like it's not even the uncommon stuff. It's the common stuff, like perimenopause, menopause, that like nobody knows what to do with us. It's like shocking to me.
Well, and what about everything that we've learned about early diagnosis in children, in, their learning creativeness and how they might be different. And I mean, I think times are changing, but one of the things that really worries me about, as you know, I've traveled through the entire United States for the last year. Are we going backward? Is this going to become a problem for Canadians? I don't think it is. I really like some of the messaging coming out um, from people being proudly Canadian, but you know, where are
Yeah.
women getting a fair shake? I mean, Rwanda, they have more than 50% in their parliament, but that's also because they lost so many of their men in a genocide. But like when is it going to be enough that we realize we occupy 51% of the planet and we still get screwed over? It's
And
just
we're the only way to bring new people into the planet, basically.
right.
I mean,
I
there's
know.
more science and all they're the main way. So it's like you think you want to take care of at a very minimum, right? Like the regeneration of the population. I mean, we won't get into it, but like to your point, like I just feel like there's so much room for improvement and
Yeah.
we're advocating constantly.
So let me ask you, because you and I talked about this for months before we made this decision, but why did you want to do a mental health podcast produced by women for women and the people who love them?
I think that I love educating and I do a lot of podcasts and I like to run a podcast. And so I was looking at whether I just stay in my own lane and do a podcast in aging and whatnot, or if I just do something and shake all this shit up. And I decided to shake all this shit up. And it just happened to come at a time where my whole life was shaken up. So it's like it just kind of fit for me. Because I think that what I've realized in the last little bit, even just before this, is that it's hard with like I'm typecast. I'm typecast into the Amy helps old people, right? Not that I call them that, but that's like the typecast of that. And it's like, I'm just a little like, let's shake this up a little bit because like everybody, there's so many other things about everybody that it's not just their job or what they do or whatever, right? Like it's just there's so many different facets and it's like I just wanted to go kind of left and try something else.
Yeah.
Why did you want to do it?
Um, a lot of personal reasons. For those that are just joining, I was in a head-on collision almost 3.5 years ago. And you sure look at things differently when you have that moment. I was certain I was going to die. I literally, as my vehicle was going into a deep ditch, thought, I wonder who's going to tell my daughter that I'm dead. Like, does a police officer show up? Is her dad going to be able to get a hold of her? Um, and then, I was diagnosed with complex PTSD and realized through therapy that a lot of really bad shit has happened to me. You know, my colleague was murdered in the parking lot that we worked in. Um, and then I later found out that the first target was me. Childhood sexual trauma, other bad stuff. I covered crime scenes and saw dead bodies, and and my therapist, based in Ottawa, said, and you're shocked that all of your neatly stored boxes started to crash down. So I became really interested in the idea of mental health not being just, we'll talk about it. I wanted to do something. And when you and I started to connect and talk about it, I saw common ground there where I realized that not only did I have a friend, but someone who also cared to dive a little deeper and talk the shit out of shit.
Well, and you know me, like in my day job, I talk the shit out about shit all the time, right? We're always having awkward conversations. I'm always encouraging people to have these conversations. And I just think that this is just another one of those things. And the thing is, too, is that our viewers are like also overlap in my world, right? Our viewers are also caregivers. Our viewers are also women. All the people, we all overlap everywhere. And so I've seen from that angle that there's just so much happening in people's lives that, and nobody likes to have a hard conversation. Apparently, I love it. I don't know why. But, really just destigmatizing all of the stuff so that people can actually have a conversation about it, or maybe something I say, or maybe something you say sparks enough for someone just to take care of something.
Yeah, yes. And just to add to that, um, I'm 57, as you know, but maybe not everybody else knows. And I wasn't fucking done. I've been a communicator all of my life, practically. I mean, I started journalism school when I was 19 and basically got a student internship program on television very quickly after that. And I wanted to kick back against that idea that, well, lady, you're done and you're over the hill and you're too old to be on television, and all of that kind of gross stigma about that. And so, I started my own YouTube channel as I decided to take a very long drive across the continent and back, and now going again across Canada and back. Um, and that was for my own mental health and because I wanted to do a YouTube channel. And also, I'm still in a situation with the insurance company. The accident was no fault of mine. The 17-year-old did not have insurance or a driver's license. So as I was thinking about what do I do now? I can't go hike mountains because things hurt and things don't work, and I had too many injuries. And I found I wanted to go back to storytelling and telling other people's stories, the people that we bring on the show who provide information that maybe they're not hearing there. I mean, remember Dr. Saskia and all of her research on dementia and
Mhm.
treatments and prevention? And why did I have to be done at 57 because other people think that at 57 I shouldn't be doing what I'm doing.
Nah, bitch.
Nah. At least I'm not walking into other people's houses.
Not in the daily anyway.
No, I've done it before, but no, not with a stranger, let me tell you. So I think that this is also about raising up the voices of our women guests who are leaders in their areas of expertise and celebrating the contribution that they're making, because I don't think that happens nearly enough.
No, I mean, talk about past guests. Everyone loves a Janet show. I mean, every time
Yeah.
Janet's on talking about money, people love to hear from her. She's, got such a
Yeah.
wealth of knowledge. It's just so nice to be able to talk to them all. And I don't know, I've been always of the mind, like I grew up as a tomboy, right? So like women aren't my besties. I mean, except for you at this point, but like I didn't have a lot, right? And so it's actually helpful for me to be in a space, not just because they're on camera that they're nice to me, but like in a space where we're talking to them and we have conversations and like they're your colleagues and your friends and whatnot, depending on who we're talking to. So it's nice to like have that, you know, the womenship. I don't know what I'm saying, but like having that because I never really had a lot of women friends.
Well, and I will say about Janet, which we don't talk about when we're talking about mental health as it pertains to financial stress. When the accident happened, Janet was my financial advisor and other stuff, what to
Mhm.
do with severance packages and stuff like that. And Janet has been rock solid. She even put the tracker on my cell phone so that she knows where I am, so that she can always make sure that I'm safe. It deepened our relationship considerably after the accident because she basically said, CC me on all decisions that you make, because I had a major brain injury, right? And CC me on everything, and I will look through it to make sure that you're making good decisions. And so we informed everybody, and where I would have money invested or retirement plans. It all went through Janet because she was one of the people that I trusted the most in the period that my brain was sort of
Mhm.
readjusting, to make sure that I didn't do something silly. Now, some people might laugh, like you live out of your car and you drive across countries. So, but there was purpose to that, in that, my I was paying $3,000 a month to live at Lansdowne Park. And that wasn't sustainable until the court case worked its way through, which it has not yet. And I've always loved to travel. I've always loved to be outside like you. We're campers at heart, and I just wanted to go on a really long drive to sort my own shit out. And so I ended up in California, as one does, and then drove all the way back. And now I want to end up in British Columbia for the winter, and then Mexico for 6 weeks in Baja. And what I will say is that sort of sorted out for me the people in my life who still wanted me in the really nice house in the glebe or the really nice condo in the glebe. And then those who said, you know what? You got to do what you want to do for your own mental health and your own physical healing. And
I was gonna say
I
the
will
people that were
support
like, "We like you dirty."
you. Yeah, no. I washed my hair yesterday for you.
It's just teasing.
But yeah, yeah. And I will say in my previous life, other people liked me dirty too.
Well, you know,
So
six of
that's
one, half a dozen of the other. I was pretty sure I just saw a Sasquatch behind you, but I think it was a runner.
as long as he doesn't have a knife, I'm good.
It wasn't coming up
I'm
on you.
and this is actually a really big thing, is that I was always terrified of the dark, camping by myself, because of a traumatic thing that happened to me when I went to summer camp and I got left in the woods by myself for a night.
Okay.
And they didn't do it. It was to earn a badge, and I agreed to it, but I was like 8 years old. And now, like, there's nobody around here. It's fall in northern Ontario, and now I sleep like a baby. And so I just consider that a victory, is that when we face our fears,
Yeah. That's a win.
sometimes it works. Sometimes it works.
Yeah. Yeah, I love my camping. I love my
Yeah.
little bowler
I
going
s-
out.
I saw one like yours on the highway a couple days ago for Thunder Bay, and they had painted it neon green.
Oh God.
And I'm like, ooh, that's
Yeah, Betsy needs a bit of a facelift. Well, not a facelift. She needs a paint job. She's yellow right now, but I think I'm gonna go teal, but I just haven't done it yet. So maybe that's a next year thing.
I think it's a next year thing. You're running out of runway on this season, I think.
I have one more camping experience in front of me, and I'm afraid that I'm
Oh, do
gonna
you?
freeze my ass off. But
Uh,
blankets, toots, and heaters, so whatever. We're here.
like literally in Thunder Bay yesterday when I was looking for a veterinarian, it was 27 degrees. And
Yeah.
the leaves aren't even, I thought it was going to be this magnificent drive and everything's still green here. There's only like, you can see there's only a couple leaves that have changed. Global warming is having a different effect on Northern Ontario.
That's a whole other podcast.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Mm,
Yeah, I mean, it's fine. I mean, you and I have talked about this privately, and I think that we wanted to talk about it today, but being home in Ottawa was not good for my physical health.
mm,
When I'm out here, I'm, you know, WALK,
mhm.
a lot. I'm moving around. My back, as you know, is shot from the accident, but at least I'm able to move around. I got really lazy and overweight when I was in Ottawa. I got sedentary. I think I was kind of losing my mojo a little bit.
Well,
Um,
to be fair, I mean, when you were here, you were checking off a lot of things, right? So it was like it wasn't driven by necessarily the stuff that excites you or makes you want to do anything when you're on the road. It's like doctor's appointments and hair appointments and like
my hair
all,
did.
fitting all the people in. Like it was kind of your schedule was more managed outwards.
Yeah, the other thing too that I think it's important for people to know is that legally to keep your Ontario health OHIP, and because I know people watch this from other places, but to keep your Ontario healthcare and to keep the insurance on your vehicle, you need to be in your home province for 6 months. Now again, I'm still in my home province as I sit here today, but there's also some very archaic kind of rules that really impact full-time travelers. And so I had to be in Ontario for 6 months. And that is stifling. And I've dealt with body issues my whole life. So I mean, I don't know how you could be on television with a bunch of really beautiful people and not feel that one thing is not like the others. And yet it amazes me that at 57 years old, I can still do all of the beating up of myself for, oh my God, I think I've gained 10 pounds. Oh, I'm not getting on a scale. Jesus, I think it's closer to 20 pounds. I need to get back in the woods and I need to get more in my environment and physical. And the way that we judge each other is cruel. Not each other, but ourselves. Is just cruel. Like I I would never judge someone else the way that I judge myself for the way that I look,
I
or
think,
the crow's feet happening, or wrinkles. And you know we left some of my gray in there it is. But I go to my favorite hairdresser who I've been with for 25 years, I think. And I'm like, okay, what are we going to do about this shit going on here? At 57 I should be going gray.
yeah. Well, you know what? I agree. We wouldn't judge or speak to other people the way we speak to ourselves.
Yeah,
On the other side of that, hoping this doesn't make me look bad, but like where it's so ingrained in us from a young age of the beauty standards and the this is not like the other and all the stuff, right? At least it was in my life, and I think it was in your life, and probably many, that isn't it sad that it's not necessarily that I'm judging anyone, but I notice it. Like I notice anything, right? Like it's very obvious to me if someone is really tall, really short, really big, really small, like has a mole somewhere weird, like you know what anything. And it's like never would I say anything. Never does it make me judge people or talk to people differently. But isn't it sad that it's so ingrained that you just can't help but notice because that's what you've been taught the whole time?
And yet I think that we have at least made some progress in keeping our fucking mouths shut, because I was 15 years old when I was the first runner up and then had to take the title because her father was posted of Miss Teen Ottawa. And they had us in leotards. And remember, no, you're too young to know and take it to the left. There was like an aerobic show on television. Take
Hmm.
it to the What in God's name were 14 and 15-year-olds at Saint Laurent shopping mall doing, parading around in leotards? I know that's not the name for it, but in the old days, that was, you wore a leotard. At least now, I think we realize how impossibly inappropriate that is to have children parading around on, uh, one of those platforms for models in the middle of a shopping center.
I would say that we're, I mean, hopefully moving in the right direction. Although Eva's in an acro class in a dance school and they put out the costumes. And of course, it's leotards and the
Yeah,
suit and all that stuff. And this year was the first year I noticed that they also put in it's your choice if you want to wear shorts or whatever. And I was like, yes,
good.
let's do that. And so
Good.
I got them for her. And she loves them. And it's like, I'm just not a big fan of like walking around in a bathing suit all the time. Like, it's like, it's basically that's what it is. And it's like, in her circumstance, it's a leisurely like acro class. Sure, they're putting on a presentation at the end. It is what it is, but like to a certain extent, like do we need to be dressed like this all the time? Like it's just like I'm glad they finally gave an extra option because then it's just like more like a shirt and a pair of shorts.
Yeah,
But I think
yeah.
it's really important because there's so many people of different body sizes as well, not to mention all of the other stuff that goes in about like the Saint Laurent shopping center and stuff like that. Like that's
Well, and it's
the
a
whole
beauty
thing.
pageant for children,
Yeah,
basically.
that's I didn't even want to touch that. That's a
Yeah.
whole thing. But like being more aware that like not all body styles like to hang out in bathing suits with their peers. Like it's just I'm glad that it's finally kind of maybe moving a little bit.
And this is going to come at you completely. I don't know what the screen is. This left field, right field. This is
I'm
going to
ready
come
for it.
completely at you from a pivot that you're not expecting. But
Ready.
I always dated, and I was single for most of my adult life, younger men who found a responsible, financially independent, solid mom attractive. And I always found it really weird. And I think I dated two people who were actually older than I was. And uh, one of them was my first husband. And I always found it really weird, but I would ask them why. And to the credit of these younger men, they would say, because you're not needy and you're
You got
independent,
your shit together.
you got your shit together. And that was an attractive formula for a lot of the relationships that I was in. Is now when they wanted to have more children, it was like, you
Yeah.
we're not doing that. But I I often question who is putting the pressure on whom.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
are we trying to be all pretty and, sculpted and all that kind of stuff because we think other people want it? Because I think a lot of times it's women who do this to each other.
That's what I was going to say. I
It's
think that's
not the
probably why I haven't had a lot of women friends. I mean, women are fine. I'm a woman, but that's also why because I think that a lot of the pressure comes from our own team of people. Like it's I'm on our own side, and it's really hard to live up because, the pressure, the pressure's not coming from someone that is 50 pounds overweight. Let's just say that. The pressure often comes from in school. It's the thinner, popular girls, right? And it's like that's kind of like what you're trying to like get to, and that kind of follows you throughout your life. And it's like, and then it comes in how you're raised and how they were raised and all the other stuff. And it's just like it is very women centric in how we form our opinions around beauty and weight and things like that. I would suggest that in my lifetime, that any of the boys or men, depending on how old I was, were taking cues from the girls and women. Like, there's in my life, there's definitely been guys that have been total assholes, and they are what they are, and it's same with the women. But like the neutral zone is like, I think that the young boys when I was younger were taking cues from the popular kids, from what they're seeing, and they ran with it.
And I know you well enough to um, either ask this question or just tell you what my own experience was is when you get those cues at a young age, it sticks with you, man. It sticks with you. I last time, I mean, I get needles in my face. I haven't given up Botox or injections yet. My choice, my body. But I do ask myself, like, when are you going to give it up, really? I mean, you're pushing 60 kind of thing. And it's still the little kid. My mother was a horrible human being. But it's still the little kid who, you know, figure skating and like little outfits. And like, I remember once she pulled my teeth out, that to show people that I had naturally straight teeth. Like I have any control over my bone structure whatsoever. But she was like, "Oh, look at her teeth." And I like everything was about the show. And then I go into television, right? That's a whole psychological drama right there, probably. And how we treat our kids. And I love Eva and I love her free spirit. And I love that you let her be and find out who she is going to be instead of, growing up in the 1970s where um, I think things were different than they are now. So I think that a lot of the shit that I deal with pushing 60 is 50 years old, 55 years old, maybe.
I I would say yes and no. I mean, I've seen some of Eva's peers, and they're not very nice.
Mm.
And I had an inkling because she's going grade 2, and I realized as a mother that I was never given any of that type of guidance that I can remember. And I just had a conversation with her at the start of school to have the conversation and be like, people are jerks, right? People tease. That's a thing. Like, like she's been teased before, and it's like it gets worse as you get older. And like that, I was trying to explain to her, like, this might be in front of you. This might happen to your friends. This like at no point am I ever going to say you're going to be teased for X, Y, and Z. But I wanted her to be aware of it, and I wanted her to have some sort of knowledge of how to deal with it, because I don't think I was ever set up that way. In fact, I was teased most of my life. And so like I didn't have any kind of guardrails on that. And I just said, I'm going to talk to you about this stuff because I wasn't talked about it, and I think that we should shed light on it. So, make sure that she can come to me with any of that stuff because, you know, I'm there, but also Mama Bear is there too. And if I hear something, I'm gonna take care of that too. But like last year she was teased by a kid and she handled it well, but I was like, you little punk. Like I'm coming after you.
I will tell you a happy thing. So I'm going to Kenora to revisit the summer camp that changed my life and led me to being a woods and water kind of gal. But I'm also in Winnipeg meeting my best friend from junior high school, who I have not seen. Sorry, that's not true. She came to Toronto when we were posted. My dad was military, to visit, and we're going out for dinner. And we were best friends in grade 5, 6, 7, and 8, and I arrived in the middle of grade 5. Everybody already had their clique set up and everything. And Kathy was like the cool kid because she was like the number one athlete. She still is. She's a triathlete, and we're exactly the same age. And we're going out for dinner, and we've been corresponding on Facebook about where I'm meeting her at this restaurant near her house in Winnipeg. And so Facebook, we talked about what it was like for her when, and this is before the internet. So
What it
what
was like for her? Sorry, you froze. Go ahead again.
yeah, well, this is like Elon keeps repositioning his satellites on my Starlink, but what it was like for her, because for me, I was devastated, but there was no internet. We didn't have Facebook or anything like that. We wrote letters, and she said that me moving away changed the trajectory of her life. Not
Mm,
that it had anything to do with me, but it was the loss of a best friend.
yeah.
And we were about to go into their high school started a year earlier, and you know, those kinds of things really change a person, because here I was, this scared kid who was on my third posting in, I don't know, 4 years, and I show up and people are being mean to me because I wear a dress to my first day of school, not realizing that you wore a jacket like this and ripped up jeans, and actually now I'm apparently in style, and I show up in a dress, and it's the middle
How dare you?
it's the middle of the year. Well, you can imagine. I mean, I was punched in the face once. I was chased home from school. There was this little kid named Jody who used to terrorize me and get the neighborhood kids to throw eggs at our house, like bullied relentlessly. And I had this girl, Kathy, who just saved me.
Hmm.
And we were just thick as thieves. And so it takes all that to go back to Eva. It takes one good friend.
Yeah.
And I think for me, you have been that person this last year, is that one good friend can just refill you with the confidence that you once had that just gets sapped by people who are just mean, just
People,
fucking mean.
people being dicks. All
People
those
being
eggplants
dicks.
out there. I
I
mean,
know.
when I moved, when I was in grade 8, I moved. So I had to do grade 8 in a new school, and then I went to high school. To me, as a parent that I've considered like changing schools and
Nightmare.
stuff, it's like that's like bad timing, man.
Yeah.
And I had girls at the other school who I thought I was leaving as friends, although, frenemies relentlessly call me and prank me and just say the worst awful things ever. And I remember them doing it. I don't have much of a memory because of the trauma I've dealt with, but I had a friend that was my best friend in 8 and 9, and she remembered, and she actually told them, like, was like, I've heard those calls, like when we were like grade 12 and 13 to one of the girls. And like they had like no recollection of it. And it's like, how did you affect someone's life so substantially and then just forget about it? Like that's just like so mind-boggling to me.
Yeah. And I am not entirely sure that the mothers of some of those children uh were helpful. You know?
Yeah.
I certainly know that this kid Jody was prank calling us. People, I think it's hard for people to understand that we didn't have voicemail or answering machines or anything.
Or
And
call ID.
this kid would just call and call and call and call, and we ended up having to get the phone company and the police involved because my grandmother was sick at the time, and so you couldn't leave the phone off the hook. It was the kind of phone that went on a wall, and you know, the mom was not super great when my dad went marching down the street to have a conversation. Oh, couldn't be my daughter. It's like,
I
here's,
would
you know,
I would be horrified.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know how we went from weight to this, but I think the two things are connected, because I think that also there's a lot of bullying around, you know, she's too thin. You don't hear this about boys. Well,
No.
actually, I shouldn't say that. I don't have the experience of raising a boy or being a boy. So I think that they probably have a lot of other peer pressure stuff going on that I'm not that familiar with. But I think that women feed on themselves. I mean, it's just insane. This is stuff that
I think what's really interesting is when you're growing up, I think that the well, we're talking about females at the moment, but the females that are just like naturally inclined to be athletic or thin or have good cheekbones or whatever it is, don't get acne or whatever. I think that they really take it for granted that they just like magically popped in and this is their body and their life. And I think that they don't realize and they're not taught to understand and realize that you got a lucky card. Don't be a dick about it, right? Like there's a lot of people that grew up like again, I'm just talking about me growing up in the 80s and 90s, right? And all the way through. I think
shut
it
up,
was
shut up, shut
I
up.
was teased into college though. Like I've had a long record of it from family, from people that were supposed to be my friends, like all of it, right? And I think that people who are dealt the better decks, I would say, or the less harsh decks of whatever this, encompasses, I feel like they don't get that they got a lucky card there and that maybe they should, be grateful for that and not be a dick about it.
I think you're right because, in the also in the year of the Miss Teen Ottawa thing, I also did a stage performance at Ottawa Little Theatre, which you sponsor, right? Like your company sponsors Ottawa
Yeah.
Little Theatre. And it was a phenomenal experience because artistic kids are really fun to hang around and they're very different in the sense that I don't find them as judgy as some of the other kids.
No, they're all
My
encompassing.
number one concern that year was I had developed acne on my forehead, probably from all the Aquanet to make my hair enormous in the 80s. So I had bangs, right? And I would keep my forehead, and if there was a strong wind, and because they were all one solid mass of hairspray, like this. And so here's this kid who's, in Miss Teen Ottawa and on stage. And, I was a straight A student till I had a little trouble with math in grade 10. And all I was consumed about was people finding out that my body had decided to have basically an Aquanet rash on my forehead. Like, like, and I was a candy striper at the hospital, and this was my big concern,
Yep. You're
and
you're very well aware if something about you stands out.
well, because people are going to make fun of you.
Yeah. People are a bunch of eggplants.
Well, they are. And when I was on television, the comments, and this is before Twitter. Can you imagine now? We would get people phoning in, and like one of my um hobbies would be, if it was the viewer line, I knew they were calling to complain about me, so I would answer the phone. And I don't like that suit she's wearing, and red does not look good on her. I never wore red, but that's a whole other story. And I don't like, and her hair's too big. And so I want to leave a message for Kimothy Walker. And I said, "This is me." And they would hang up,
What a weird thing to
hang up.
do.
And this happened all the time, is
Oh
that
my
people
God.
wanted to call about my appearance. I would have friends when I had a BlackBerry who would text and go, "Oh, I don't like that color green on you." I'm like, I'm in the middle of a fucking show and you're texting me that you don't like the color green on me? It's like,
That is weird. That is
yeah.
like
But I don't know how far we've come. This is my point, is we still, as women, are fighting
each
to,
other.
yeah, well, yeah, and to not feel like, oh my God, I gained 20 pounds in Ottawa. I really need to figure this shit out, and get more active and do my physiotherapy exercises and stuff like that. And that's the little kid voice chirping away.
Well, we're a bunch of inner childs walking around. Like that's all we are. We're just like all just trying to solve our own trauma and like get through the day. And like most of us are trying to be a good human. I can't guarantee all of us are, but most of us are.
I,
So I don't know.
I spent 6 months in the United States. I'm not entirely sure.
All right. Well, that's another podcast.
I know.
Well,
Yeah.
I think we need to do, well, we'll do more like this. This was our rant of updates. Because if you haven't noticed and you're watching, we don't have a guest today. We thought
Well,
we could just come to you today and do our own thing.
yeah, and actually we plan to do this show next week, which is sort of like our year in review kind of thing. And it just so happened that and this is the difference, right? One of our guests, who's a friend of ours, said that, she was having a migraine today and she was really sorry, et cetera, et cetera. And you and I both responded with, all good. Dear
Alrighty.
God, take care of your own self. I mean, I get migraines. I'm certainly not going to put any pressure on you. And we just rescheduled her to next Monday. A little different than when we air these things, but that's the other thing too, is that we are committed to giving that we work with and know a break. They need a fucking break.
Yeah.
If they're having a migraine, no need to show up here. We support you. If you need to go to ground because you've got a migraine headache, Amy and I are going to be the people that support you, because that's what this podcast is about. Is we're not just talking the shit out of shit. We're going to support you in anything that you need to reschedule or to take care of yourself. Somebody has to.
Well, on that note, we'll do more of these.
Yeah.
But for now, Buddy is looking good. Medication
Yeah.
is kicking in. Miss
Yes,
Kim.
he's heavily medicated.
Mr. Bedrick.
Yes.
Well, if you haven't yet, make sure to subscribe and like us on YouTube. Feel free to comment, not about the way we look, please. Let's not do that. But feel free to comment if there's shows that you're interested in. Let us know, and we'll work to find the professionals in those fields to talk the shit out about shit.
Yeah, and also if you want to be on the show because you think that you have an interesting area of expertise that women need to know about, we'd love to have you on the show.
Yep, tell us. All right, until next time on the Inner Shift, we'll see you then.